Hello friends, and welcome to my today's lecture, that is a short note on Wallace Stevens. Wallace Stevens was an American modernist poet. He was born in Reading, Pennsylvania on 2nd October 1879 in the United States and died on 2nd August 1955 at St. Francis Hospital, Hartford, Connecticut in the United States. Now he won the Pulitzer Prize for poetry for his collected poems in 1955. Stevens also received the National Book Award for Poetry and the Robert Frost Medal. He was a master stylist, employing an extraordinary vocabulary and a rigorous precision in crafting his poems. Stevens' verse has been the subject of more critical study than perhaps any other modern American poet. He was a contemporary of modernist poets such as T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, and William Carlo Williams. But he lived and wrote largely outside the artistic circles of the other poets. Now, as far as his family is concerned, we see that Wallace Stevens' mother, Margaretha Catherine Zeller, was a teacher, and his father, Garrett Barclow Stevens, was an attorney. And also that his family belonged to the Dutch Reformed Church. And when Stevens became eligible, he enrolled in parochial schools. Now his father contributed meaningfully to his early education by developing an extensive library at home and also encouraging reading in the children. Now, at the age of 12, Stevens entered the public school for boys and began studying classics in Greek and Latin. In high school, he became a prominent student by scoring high marks and distinguishing himself as a skillful orator. He also reported for the school's newspaper, and after completing his studies in reading, he decided to continue his literary pursuits at the Harvard University. Now, during his 3 years at the Harvard, from 1897 till 1900, he contributed to the Harvard Advocate and edited the Harvard Monthly. He began an unsuccessful career in journalism at the New York Tribune before enrolling at New York Law School in 1901 and entering a partnership with Lyman Ward in 1904. Stevens married Elsie Willa Catchell in 1909 to the stern disapproval of his parents, because his parents viewed his wife as belonging to the lower class, and Stevens' relations with his parents strained since his marriage, and they continued until the death of his parents in 1911 and 1912. Now, Stevens had one daughter, Holly, and they lived in Midtown, New York from 1909 to 1916. Disdaining American independence and cars, he began a lifelong habit of walks that took him as far as Greenwich, Connecticut. Now, after Stevens settled into the legal department of the Hartford Accident and Indemnity Company in 1916, He rose to the post of a vice president. For 10 years, he continued as an amateur poet and became famous as a street roamer in all weathers while composing his poetry. Now, he started publication in 1913 and pursued it in many literary magazines and journals. Now, like many other poets of the era, he was discovered by Harriet Munro, who was the editor of poetry and made room for the 4-stage phases in an issue of 1914 War. Stevens also earned a $100 prize for the magazine, the second time for the verse play Three Travelers Watch a Sunrise, published in 1915. He also saw his one-act work produced at the New York's Princetown Theatre. Now, although Wallace produced his second play, Carlo Among the Candles, which was published in 1920, first in Milwaukee and then at New York's Neighborhood Playhouse. But he discounted drama as his life's work. First, he contributed to the anthologies for nearly 10 years, and then he got his poems collected in a volume. Now, as far as his literary career is concerned, Stevens issued his first collection of poems under the name Harmonium, and in 1923, with the help of critic Karl van Wachten and publisher Alfred A. Knopf. But it hardly brought any royalties to him, or we can say that it got negligible royalties for Wallace Stevens. And then he followed with the other works of his, one by one, in a gap of few years. Now, more about Wallace Stevens I'll be talking about in my next lecture. Till then, goodbye and thank you, friends.